And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brendan Deek. Thanks so much for tuning in today, guys. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. I would also be greatly appreciative. A really cool episode for you today. I'm happy to be joined by Ben Volin. He is a senior NFL writer for the Boston Globe. Ben, how we doing?
Doing great, Brandon. Just finishing up another day here at Patriots practice. So sorry I have to come to you live from my car, but that's life as a pro here. Can't always get to the office in time.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, man. Really appreciate it. Let's start here. I like asking the beat writers that go around to the training camps. How has it been so far? This process has it been different for you? Just tell me how the life's been the last couple of weeks going around to training camp.
Yeah, I'm not quite doing like the John Madden training camp. I'm not getting in a bus and hitting all 32 teams, but I am fortunate that my bosses at the Globe are letting me check out a few different teams this year. So I spent the first, week plus with the Patriots, got a good kind of grasp of where they are right now. New offensive system with Matt Patricia, Joe Judge leading the way, Bill Bellichick as well.
All have questions about the Patricia offense. Don't you worry.
You're not the only one.
Yeah.
Then I'm checking out the AFC East team. So I spent 2 days in Buffalo. I saw the Dolphins for 2 days last week. I'm going to see the Jets. I also had to go to Tampa to check out my boy Tom Brady because the Bucs are basically a home team for us up here in Boston. And then I'm actually going to go to the Raiders this week and see Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, the new GM. They have a whole bunch of ex-Patriots there. And then obviously a lot of excitement with Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. So I'm going to end up seeing 5-6 different teams, 6 teams throughout this training camp. So it's fun to see how different teams operate and how different coaches run their programs. And I'm not sure, you jump in for a day or two and I'm not sure, sometimes your eyes lie to you. You see something at practice and it makes you change everything. And so it's important to keep everything in perspective when you're seeing these camps, but no question. I think you learn a lot about these teams, the coaching staffs, how they view a lot of the players when you do get to check them out live in person.
Yeah, this is such a cool time for football writers, right? This is like, I assume it's probably one of the more favorite times for writers, right? You're getting going again, you're getting back to it, you get to see all the teams, and everyone's happy at this time, right? Every team's got optimism, so it's good. You get when you talk to people when you're doing interviews and whatnot, people are technically in a good mood. When you get to week 5 or week 6 after a loss, you don't get the best answers from coaches and players, right? So this is always probably an exciting time for writers because you get the best answers out of people.
No question. Yeah, this is the time to go around the camps. It's really a good networking time, not just with the coaches, but frankly, with the PR departments. And they're kind of the gatekeepers of the whole thing. So it's really, you're right. Everyone's 0-0. They're not really game planning yet either. This is the time of camp where it's just about one-on-one battles, competition, figuring out who's going to be on the 53. So this is definitely the time of the year to catch the coaches, catch the players. Everyone's in a good mood. As soon as week 1 starts, everything gets shut down, and it's like around here we call it Fort Foxborough, but it's not that yet. And so training camp and OTAs and mini camp too. That's the time of the year to go around. Build up those relationships so that you can count on them the rest of the year.
Okay, we're going to rewind a little bit here. We're going to focus probably on the Patriots for a majority of these questions. And I want to rewind to the Patriots draft because that was a very interesting and intriguing NFL draft class this year. Ben, what do you make of the draft class that they did have? Because look, they obviously reach. Well, you can say a reach, but for most draft scouts, the first overall pick was a reach. They had some other interesting draft picks. What do you make of what they did?
Yeah, there's definitely some eyebrow raising picks there to go. First of all, they traded down in the first round, classic Bellichick, and then took a guard with the 29th pick. Could not get more Bellichick than that. Some people say they overdrafted him. I don't know. I do think Cole Strange is going to be a very good NFL player. I just hated taking a guard with the 29th pick, especially after they traded down. They could have gotten a cornerback like a Kaiir Elam. They needed pass rush help. The front 7 needs more athleticism. They at the time needed another wide receiver. I feel like you can find a starting guard in the 3rd round. I would not have taken a guard with that first pick. And then with their 2nd round pick, Tyquan Thornton, he's got the skinniest wrists in the draft this year, just rail thin. Their 3rd round pick, Marcus Jones, or cornerback named Jones. They drafted a
Yep,
couple.
Marcus Jones. You're right. Yep.
Marcus Jones. He's
Little
5 feet. He's 5'8".
little guy. Yeah, little guy. Yeah.
So again, this might end up being a good draft. But when you tell me that their first 3 picks were a guard, a rail thin receiver, and then a 5'8" cornerback, with this team's history, their recent drafting the last 5 to 7 years has been pretty putrid. So there's definitely a lot of questions. But look, I do think Strange is going to be able to play. Thornton actually, I think, has shown up well in training camp so far, and the word on him is he definitely does play stronger than you would think, despite how skinny he is, and he's obviously a burner, so he does give them a lot of speed. Just with their history at receiver, they've had so many guys flop, so we'll see about him. And then they drafted 2 corners in the 3rd and 4th round. They need a lot of bodies there. They're thin at corner after letting J.C. Jackson and Stephon Gilmore go. So we'll see. I mean, drafting has been Belichick's Achilles heel the last several years. Cole Strange, I think part of it is Belichick's like, you know what? I'm just going to take a guy who I know is going to be good. And I think the bust factor with Cole Strange is probably pretty low. I don't know if he's going to be a superstar. I don't know of many teams that are a guard away from winning a Super Bowl. So I don't know how much he really increases the wins. But I do think he's going to be develop into a solid NFL player. So that will be a win for Belichick in the draft at least.
Okay, so let's go back to training camp right now. The Patriots have probably one of the more interesting storylines out of any team right now, and it's their offensive coordinator battle. So it looks like Joe Judge and Matt Patricia were kind of in like a battle for who's going to be calling the plays. It looks like that Matt Patricia is going to be the offensive play caller for this team. Ben, what do you make of this situation? There's a bunch of different ways you can look at it. I almost feel like Bill Belichick is throwing him a bone, maybe, and like saying, hey, this guy took a lot of heat in Detroit. His career kind of tumbled. It almost feels like he's giving Matt Patricia another chance to kind of regain his what people think of him around the league and become a better coach and kind of regain what he lost in Detroit. I don't know if I'm on the right path there, but it almost seems like it's Bill Belichick throwing him a bone to try to revamp his career. Because again, there's so many other ways he could have gone with this, and to end up with Matt Patricia as your offensive play caller for a second-year quarterback just seems like a very odd move for him to make.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely on the right path there. It's not the only reason that Patricia is probably going to be the play caller. And there's a big deal that Joe Judge was doing it a lot the other night, but Patricia started the game, and Joe Judge started calling the plays when the 3rd-string quarterback went in and all the backups. So I do think Belichick is trying to help rehab Patricia's image, not only making him the offensive coordinator, he's made him in charge of like the salary cap and managing the team's cap. And if you look at the Patriots contracts the last 2 years, Matt Patricia is the one signing their contracts. That doesn't mean he's running free agency, but he's
unbelievable.
He's dotting the I's and crossing the T's on the contract and kind of managing their salary cap. So, Patricia, whenever he does apply for head coaching jobs again, he's literally the only guy who's going to be able to say, I've been a head coach, an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, a salary cap manager, a linebackers coach, an offensive coordinator, an offensive line coach. He's literally getting every kind of experience from Belichick. So I do think that's part of it. I also think Patricia is getting the tab as the play caller because he's one of the few guys that Belichick trusts. Belichick keeps a very small, tight inner circle. Patricia is his guy. I mean, he's really developed as Belichick's right-hand man in all things football, especially the last few years with Nick Caserio and Josh McDaniels moving on. Patricia has come back and is really Belichick's advisor when it comes to everything. So I think that's just who he trusts. And then I think you have to, like, monetarily, the Patriots have never been a team that pays huge salaries. Like, I don't think many established offensive coordinators were willing to come here for what the Patriots are going to pay. So I just think for all those reasons, it ended up being Matt Patricia. But ultimately, I think Belichick's in charge. I think Patricia is going to be the one calling the plays, but I think Belichick's going to say, hey, we're going to call 2 runs, and then we're going to hit him with a play action pass. I was talking with former quarterback Jim Miller, who's now with SiriusXM. He was with the Patriots backup in 2003 when they won their second Super Bowl. He said all season long, Belichick was telling Charlie Weiss, hey, they're doing XYZ on defense, so you need to call ABC. Like, Belichick's always been in charge or very deeply involved with the offense, and I just think he's going to be in charge. Patricia's going to be the one executing it. And I think they're prepping Joe Judge too, in case they need to turn to him for whatever reason, like it's just not working out or something happens with Patricia. So they're training Judge too. But to me, it is Patricia, and really it's Patricia and Bill Belichick running the offense.
It's hilarious. If you told me 2 years ago or a year ago that Joe Judge and Matt Patricia would be the offensive play callers for the New England Patriots, like it's bananas. But hey, we'll see if it works. This offense has some talent. Max Jones, of course, showed a lot of promise as a rookie. So just because Matt Patricia play caller doesn't mean this offense can't be good. How has the offense looked so far in camp?
Well, not good. So it's not off to a good start. They've had a lot of bad practices, a lot of balls hitting the ground, a lot of Mac Jones having to scramble and throw away. But it's training camp, and by all accounts, they're implementing a new scheme. It's starting to trickle out. It seems similar to what the Rams do, where it's not the most complicated scheme, but it's a lot of outside stretch and a lot of play action. They don't use a traditional fullback. They use more of an H-back. I could see that being Jonnu Smith, going in motion behind the line of scrimmage. And it's really about getting to the line of scrimmage and varying the tempo. Like Sean McVay is kind of a junk ball pitcher where they quick snap it one play and then a delayed snap the next, and they keep the defense on their toes. It seems like the Patriots are going to that type of offense, which was very good at getting the most out of Jared Goff. People forget, Jared Goff instantly became a much better quarterback in that kind of system. So it hasn't been off to a good start. The offense did perform better, but it was all backups in that preseason game the other night. What I am coming around on is the idea of Mac Jones having defensive coaches as his offensive coaches between Belichick and Patricia. They're two pretty experienced defensive guys. So I like that Mac's going to go to the line of scrimmage. And he's got Patricia in his ear. Watch out for the linebacker. Watch out for the safety. And Brady always talked about how important it was to have a defensive coach kind of teaching him the nuances of that side of the ball. So I am coming around to that. That said, if it doesn't work out this year, they deserve to be crushed for having this set up. Important year, number 2 around Mac Jones. You don't have an experienced play caller or quarterbacks coach around him. So definitely very risky. And if it doesn't work, it's certainly opening themselves up to a lot of criticism.
I feel like when we were doing our AFC East preview on the show like a couple weeks ago, last week, I believe, actually. And when I was looking at the Patriots offense and I was taking a look at last year's numbers and how they ran the offense, to me, it seems like the best way to do this is to kind of let Mac Jones. I don't want to use the terminology let Mac cook like they did in Russell Wilson and when he was there, but they need to open up the offense more. You need to give he was good in Alabama was being that point guard system, right? Where he was delivering the ball 5 to 7 yards, letting his playmakers make plays. I just feel like this is you got to take the training wheels off. Like you can't have the 3-run Buffalo game, right? Like you can't have, or the 3-pass Buffalo game again. Like, you know what I mean? When last year, I know it was windy during that game, but I feel like you got to take the training wheels off this guy and let this guy deliver passes to the playmakers. I know they don't have a ton of playmakers on the offense, but it seems like to just let this guy cook. Let's see what he can do.
Well, it's kind of the whole chicken and egg argument. Do you take the training wheels off it and let him go, or do they have the training wheels on him because he couldn't do it? They didn't have confidence in him in that game in Buffalo. The last month of the season, they were consistently falling behind 17-0, 20-0 to the Bills, the Dolphins, the Colts. It's not just the playmakers. Mac Jones is not big and physical. He doesn't have a big arm. He has to win, mentally. He has to win the rep almost before the snap a lot of times. So this is going to be a big year for him. Rookie year was, I think, by rookie standards was fantastic. By NFL standards, it was average. It was decidedly average, and I think he and the offense got exposed a little bit in December. So he's not a rookie anymore. Now he's got to play up to the levels of the Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allens and those guys. And he definitely doesn't have the game changers around him. He doesn't really have anyone on the field that can catch a slant and take it 60 yards to the house. And I think today's NFL, all the top teams all have elite receivers. So there are certainly questions there, but without the big arm and the big physical stature, Mac Jones is going to have to win mentally. And that's a big ask for a young quarterback. So we'll see what this new offense does. Play action, I think, will help him a lot, create some of those big windows, help create separations. Devontae Parker could be a nice addition. The jump ball guy that they hoped N'Keal Harry would be. Harry never developed, so they go out and trade for Devontae Parker now. He's never really been able to stay on the field. We'll see what they can get out of him this year. Look, they have the pieces, I think, to be a successful offense, but they're counting on a lot going right. Nelson Aguilar and Jonnu Smith having big steps forward. Kendrick Bourne having another career year. Devontae Parker staying healthy. Mac Jones taking a big jump. Matt Patricia and Joe Judge being competent coaches. Like there's a lot to ask here, and it seems like it's probably a tough ask to have it all go right.
So let's step away from the offense. On the defensive side of the ball, what's your biggest concern there?
The front seven, I do wonder if they did enough there. We saw twice at the end of the year they got shredded by the Bills like no Bill Belichick defense ever has been before, where they literally didn't get a stop in either game. There were points scored every single time. And they got rid of all their linebackers, Dante Hightower, Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy, guys who are older, maybe a step slow. And they didn't add anyone. They're just counting on younger guys improving, and a guy like Josh Uche stepping up in his third year. Matt Judon had 12 sacks in his first 13 games and did nothing in December last year. Can he not hit the wall again? And they brought back the same defensive front that was very average. They were like 25th against the run last year. They were middle of the road in sacks. Guys like Dietrich Wise and Lawrence Guy and Christian Barmore is a nice young player, but they don't have a ton of athleticism in the front seven.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they did enough there. I do like some of these hybrid safeties they have, like Kyle Duggar, Adrian Phillips. They got Jabril Peppers coming back from an ACL. So they have some talent in the back seven or the back whatever, in the secondary. But I just don't know about this defense. They got completely exposed last year at the end of the season, and they didn't make a lot of changes to the front. Again, another side of the ball where they're just counting on a lot of improvement from the guys from last year, and that seems very risky.
It's funny. I'm an Eagles guy, right? So I follow the team closely, and to see when I was going through their depth chart, to see Jalen Mills is now one of their starting cornerbacks after going to safety. He's had a funny career, and I just find that very interesting. That's where Bill Belichick is going to land on. Ben, we still got you there?
Yeah, I got a phone call. It messed up my connection. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries about that. Okay, let's transition over to Tampa and let's talk about your Tom Brady. You're very plugged in with Brady. Of course, you covered him your entire career when you at the Boston Globe and when he was in New England. He's stepped away right now. He's not with the team. Do you know exactly what's going on? Is it a family issue?
So that's how they're couching it, but we've come to mean that or they're couching it as a personal issue, and I don't believe it's a health issue. So that's the most important thing, that it's nothing related to health. It seems like it's something family related, which could mean anything. He's got a vacation planned because he was supposed to be retired this time of year, and his wife Giselle has wanted him to retire for a long time so they can move on with their lives, do other things. Their lives very much revolve around him and his football schedule. So I think it's very possible. Look, it could just be like a vacation that they had planned. And he told the Bucs, like, hey, I got to do it.
Yeah.
And what are the Bucs going to say? I mean, they're just happy and thrilled to have Tom Brady for another year. It could be something as simple as, he promised his kids he would be there for the first week of school. And now the Bucs are going to be in Nashville for a week of joint practices. So he told the team, hey, I got to be home. I mean, I'm not sure. Right? It seems like something related to being there with the family, and he's Tom Brady and he can bull rank. And if he doesn't want to be there for training camp, he can. And, I think there's some worry about whether he truly wants to be there right now. Obviously I think Giselle is leaning on him pretty heavily to retire. He obviously thought about retiring. His whole plan was to step away and join the Dolphins front office this season. And he's only with the Bucs as like a fallback plan. And his buddy Gronk isn't there. That's his guy. And he's now out there with the Bucs. Everyone on the field is literally half his age. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, these guys aren't practicing. He's thrown to a shell of Julio Jones and Kyle Rudolph. And he's, the heat there is miserable. He's got to be worrying, wondering like, why did I do this? Is this what I really want? So I think there's some nervousness that he's not going to go through with it. I think ultimately he will, but I think clearly the family stuff is tugging at him a lot right now. And you do have to wonder if he's putting in enough work with the guys. He was always someone who talked about every rep is important and you got to put it all in the bank for later in the year. If anyone can overcome missing time, it's Tom Brady, but you just wonder about his commitment level and where his head's truly at right now.
What do you think the most likely outcome for Tom Brady is in 2023? Is he playing? If he is playing, where is it? There's a bunch of rumors. We saw the Stephen Ross story, right? Like, Ben, you know this guy a lot. You've been around him a lot. What do you make of that? Where do you think he lands in 2023?
I think he'll be in the booth with Fox Sports.
Okay.
I think the Dolphins thing, it feels like it's blown up. The relationship between the two owners there isn't, I don't think it's great because Stephen Ross, the primary owner, is in the process of removing Bruce Beal as the next in line, and Ross is putting his daughter as the next in line instead. And it feels like the whole Brady Sean Payton thing is dead in the water. You can't count it out. It could still happen. Brady bought a house in Miami, and he'll be a free agent, so he can still play there or go there. Stephen Ross, big University of Michigan guy, he could throw a crazy offer at Brady, so it's still possible. But it does feel like that offer's off the table, and he's got a good gig lined up with Fox. I don't know. Brady's ultimate goal, I think, is to get into an ownership group with a team, and that's why I think the Dolphins thing was so attractive. He'd only be a minority owner with the Dolphins, but it's his foot in the door of the business of the NFL. I don't know how many of those opportunities are coming up immediately for him. So I think the TV booth, I think he's probably done playing. I think this year is finally the time where he looks around and says, all right, it's enough is enough. And so I think he'll be calling games for Fox next year.
Okay, last question. Let's go back to New England, and I'm going to kind of ask a very similar question about Bill Belichick. Colin Cowherd, you were on the Herd as well last week on his show. He said in a bold prediction that he thinks Bill Belichick's going to retire at the end of this year. He turned 7 years old. Like he said, his draft picks haven't looked too hot as of late. The team, if Mac Jones doesn't pan out, the future of this team looks bleak at best. What do you think the future for him looks like?
I don't think it certainly is a bold prediction from Colin, and I would couch it definitely as a surprise because I don't think Bill is going to step away after this season. Okay. I think like Tom Brady has shown that you can still thrive in the NFL at 40 if you do things the right way. I think Bill is showing that, or just in general, like there's no reason to step down at 75 or 72 like you used to. As long as you feel young and you have the energy, Bill is sharp enough to coach for a long time. He's right on the verge of the all-time wins record. He's like 25, 28 away from Don Shula. He'll add 8 to 10 more this year. Do you really want to walk away when you're so close to all the wins records? I believe he's won championship behind Paul Brown. Paul Brown won 7 titles in the NFL. Belichick has 6 as a head coach. So there's some records that he's chasing. Not to mention, he's been taking it on the chin the last couple of years with Brady going to Tampa and winning. A lot of people saying Belichick is nothing without Brady and he can't win without Brady. I'm sure he would love to shut everyone up and win a Super Bowl without Brady. And I do think he's very motivated there. And Mac Jones, I think he's motivated to develop Mac Jones into a franchise quarterback because I think that's going to be part of his legacy too. It's not just Brady. He found another quarterback in Mac Jones. So I think Belichick's got several years left. He's got his sons here on the team. I think that's important. He gets to see his family every day.
Good point.
So I just, he's making a ton of money. He's got good work-life balance. I just don't see him stepping down this year or anytime soon.
Ben Volin, senior writer for the Boston Globe. Thanks so much for doing this. Why don't you plug in your social media and where people can find your work?
Thank you. Yeah, please follow me on Twitter at Ben Volin. That's Volin. And at bostonglobe.com. You can please read all my articles.
Ben, thanks again for doing this. Have a good season, eh?
Awesome. Thanks.